Good evening, everyone. We are Team Gilead. Tonight we'll be talking about the company's transactional factors. I'm Ron Taylor and working with Austin Voorhees and SJU. First, we're going to be talking about the organization's management practices. We've garnered many reviews from Glassdoor about the employee experience. One such employee says mid-level management move cunningly and politically to advance the developmentally scarce organization. It's a big company, and therefore it's not uncommon that there would be some bad reviews on the company experience. However, we have countered the bad experience with a good. Our teammate, Natalie Kwan, has actually worked at Gilead before and still has friends and colleagues within the organization. And so we have come to the conclusion there is a split between good and bad managers across the company, nationally and internationally. And there is a dissonance between transformational leadership and transactional management. However, there are many feedback and management tools in place, such include upward feedback for management and leadership, a matrix feedback system, as well as leadership trainings that occur annually. However, the big question is all this working for the benefit of the company? Are these managers helpful and friendly to their stakeholders, peers, employees? Are these resources helpful for new employees, contractors, interns, basically anybody that is not a C-suite executive or a tenured employee of the company? And lastly, can managers direct and facilitate completion of daily tasks effectively? Or mainly, are they able to contribute to the bottom line by performing their daily responsibilities? Next, I'll turn it over to SJ to talk about structure.
All right, structure. So in class, Dr. Buentempo mentioned that pharmaceutical companies usually fall under the product structure, but we just didn't see that kind of product specialization represented in the functions or in the roles of the company. Instead, we saw more of a centralized functional structure with clear-cut roles, more traditional roles based on expertise, and an extensive and comprehensive chain of command. On top of that, Gilead introduced a new structure at the end of 2019 based on commercial markets. So these markets are the US, Australia, Canada, and Europe, that's ACE, Intercontinental, which is Middle East and some Asian countries, and Japan and China, which are their own markets due to their sizes. Another structure worth mentioning is the HR system or the HR structure. So the HR structure was not updated as with the rest of the structure. They still use the old structure, old global structure of North America, Latin America, Asia, and EMEA, which is Europe, Middle East, and Africa. We're not sure why they haven't aligned these two structures, but we think this is a possible area for intervention. There's also acquisitions. Gilead loves its acquisitions. They had many acquisitions in the past, which makes sense. They're a big pharmaceutical company trying to specialize in antivirals. So acquiring these companies with their specific specializations and expertise would keep Gilead, competitive and a top player in the market. Over the years, they've been pretty good with merging these structures, except for maybe Kite, but that has its own dynamics since it's its own subsidiary. And then we can move on to work unit climate. So Gilead is a big company. It's going to be almost impossible to pinpoint the climate of every work unit. But just speaking generally, the sense of direction is pretty clear. The mission is right there. It's pretty simple. Company achievements are plastered on the wall. Patient testimonials are on the walls. And everyday language in Gilead kind of like centers around patients, like their customers. And then there's roles and responsibilities. In such a bureaucratic and functional structure, the roles and responsibilities, the one good thing about it is that the roles and responsibilities are very clear. And there's no confusion about what you need to do. And then standards and commitment kind of goes into systems and managerial practices. And fairness of rewards also deals with the compensation system, which we'll talk about in systems later on. Overall, the teamwork is pretty good, which we'll see in task requirements and job skill match. As you can see, internationally, they focus a lot more on emphasizing Gilead's values and conflict resolution skills. This might be since in some collectivist societies, people might be more conflict averse. And I believe this is a testament to Gilead's cultural awareness in trying to bring these cultures together into their organization, kind of teaching more conflict skills to not have conflict averse people avoid conflicts. And then there's also domestic and international skills that we saw were in common. Most of these deal with teamwork and strong analytic skills, data-driven skills, a lot of functional technical skills also. And then in the individual needs and values, the next slide, just talks about how Gilead offers so much stuff, so much benefits, so many amenities, because we know that job satisfaction does not look the same to everybody. Hackman and Oldham said job enrichment is different for everybody. And Gilead addresses this by just offering a whole bunch of, benefits, whole bunch of resources, employee resource groups, their technology, their infrastructure, their gyms, their whole lot of things that a lot of employees might find value in. And then we'll move on to systems. Very briefly, HR systems, they used to be really old. And because of softwares, they used to make them in-house. Now they've replaced all these with Workday, MS Teams, and Zoom. So teamwork and collaboration got a lot more effective and efficient. Managers are also talking a lot more one-on-one with people through MS Teams, a lot more teamwork going on. And then compensation, just to keep it short, it's just great in every way. There's nobody complains about it. Everybody loves compensation. It's probably one of the first things that Gilead employees mention. And yeah, they match their 401k 100%, etc. And then Austin can talk about some more of the other systems and some motivational factors.
Thanks, SJ. So Gilead has a number of policies in place surrounding ethics and covering a couple different areas. So first, their business conduct. So they're committed to a super high level of standards, and they try to adhere to these standards to maintain patient, company, employee, and customer safety. And their expectation is that every member of Gilead is familiar with and embodies these policies. They also have policies regarding their supply pipelines. So when they import from a country, rather than utilizing a third party, which could be biased, to make an assessment, Gilead relies on the US Department of State, and they only import from countries that are compliant with the Trafficking Victims Protection Act, the TVPA. They also have a lot of policies in place regarding anti-corruption and anti-bribery. So they have a 5-page document which details policy scope, prohibited behaviors, and techniques they use to avoid corruption. And they actually place this responsibility on all Gilead personnel. So if any employee witnesses any kind of suspicious behavior by anybody else, they are required to report it. And as a side note, Gilead also posts documentation on how they handle political contributions, and they release a full disclosure every 6 months with every single contribution they make. So moving on to procedures, this slide details the drug development process for the FDA. It's obviously a super strict, stringent process. It takes a lot of time to get through, and this is central to Gilead's functioning. As a pharmaceutical company, obviously their main goal is to create pharmaceuticals, and this is really the only way to do it. And we kind of posit that this strictness permeates the entire organization, since these are the rules they have to abide by to operate in their sphere. And moving on to motivation. So we came at motivation from 2 different sides. So there's intrinsic motivation, which comes from clarity of job roles and a strong sense of purpose found in the type of work they do. So they are helping other people and ultimately saving lives, and they know that. And that gives them an intrinsic kind of value to their work. They have a term called patience can't wait, which is used when something needs to get done rapidly. And it helps remind them of why they're working as hard as they are. There's also extrinsic motivation, as SJ noted earlier. The compensation and benefits are second to none, and this really fulfills the individual needs and values side of things. And that's it for us. Thanks so much for listening to us, everybody.